Probably our most inconsistent director working today, Ridley Scott, now brings us the historical epic drama Napoleon. Does this one fall on the good side of his films, on the bad, or maybe somewhere in between? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for the new film Napoleon. This is in theaters right now, and it was originally supposed to go right to Apple TV Plus, but they decided to put it in theaters for a few weeks first. Obviously, they were going to give it a small theatrical run anyway for Oscar contention. You have to have it in theaters for at least a week in New York and LA, so they would have done that, but they decided, you know what? Sure, we may get some subscribers from this later on, but let's see if we can't make, half our budget back or something in theaters. So theaters is where you can see it right now, but I'm sure it will be popping up soon on Apple TV Plus and for your on-demand viewing. But all right, so Ridley Scott is the director here, and like I mentioned, he is probably our most inconsistent director. When he knocks it out of the park, it's amazing. He's got some really good ones. Lately, The Martian is, I would say, top tier for him. But he also has some really bad ones. The Counselor comes to mind in that regard in terms of recent entries from him. That was, I guess, at this point about 7 or 8 years ago, but still. But so now we have Napoleon, which is not necessarily a factual document. Let's throw that out there right now. This is not. It is a historical drama, but it is really historical fiction. There's a lot of things here that are not what really happened. There's a lot of smushing of the timeline and different aspects of his relationship and his time as a general and all of this. That this is, don't look at this for a history lesson. Yes, some things certainly happened that really did happen, but this is what they're calling historical fiction. So you sort of go into it with that mindset, and I think you may enjoy the movie a little bit more. But we have Joaquin Phoenix here as Napoleon Bonaparte, and this really starts when he's pretty young, and we go basically through his entire life. Another thing that's okay. Well, are we really going to have enough time to focus on all these different aspects? No, we won't. That's why we're going to smush a lot of them together. But it is pretty long. It's well over 2 hours, almost to the 3-hour mark. But a lot of ground to cover, obviously, since we're starting so young with him. And we have, of course, a lot about his relationship with Josephine, and that is played by Vanessa Kirby. We've seen her pop up in a whole bunch of different things over the years. But I think Joaquin Phoenix will be sort of the marquee name for this film. So look, in terms of historical drama, historical fiction even, look, I'm a little hit or miss. History was not a huge subject for me in school. I know a lot of the basics. I know some of the basics of the Napoleon story. I know about the Battle of Waterloo, for example, although I feel like that's probably mostly because of the ABBA song than anything else, but whatever the case may be, I do know about that, and they do focus on that here. But one thing that this movie is really, really solid with, and the reason maybe you'd want to see it on the big screen, and I think because it's Ridley Scott, this may be available in 70 millimeter as well. I know you like him and Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino love that really, really old school movie making style. So you may be able to catch this in 70 millimeter, but certainly it had IMAX screenings as well. But the battle sequences are just amazing here. They're sometimes too visceral for my taste, but that just kind of makes them more realistic. But the directing of those scenes is phenomenal. I don't think we're going to see any major award nominations for this movie coming out come Oscar time, but I will say the costuming, and maybe, some of those side categories, maybe sound, but the costumes are like excellent here. So visually, it's a really stunning film, and I would say the main reason to see this at the theater. The other parts of it are a little bit more hit or miss, including the performances. So Joaquin Phoenix, look, I'm also kind of hit or miss on him. I think he's a little full of himself sometimes. I think his best movies are his less, like, mainstream ones. Like he did this movie a couple years ago called Come On, Come On that I thought was great. But I feel like when he really gets into these, Joker and these really big movies, his performances are decent, but he leaves me a little bit cold. I know he's known as one of the top actors. For me, he's a little more hit or miss. But I will say, for the most part, he's actually really good in this role. I think he kind of does disappear into it, like he does with a lot of his roles. Like I didn't necessarily see, oh, this is Joaquin Phoenix dressing up as Napoleon. No, I really think he attacked the role. With everything he's got. The depiction of Napoleon, though, leaves a little bit to be desired, and his the tone, I guess, of the movie, because sometimes you could even say it's like kind of a dark comedy. Like he gets into these really weird kind of modes as Napoleon, where sometimes he's being like kind of trying to be funny or coy or whatever. It sort of goes against some other things. In those scenes, I was just like, you could have just cut this out of the movie. Like this didn't matter really. I mean, I guess it's attempting to show like a softer side of him, or certainly a more pathetic side in certain instances, with his woman. But I think if we're gonna excise 10 or 15 minutes from this movie, which certainly could have been, it is far too long. I think that would have been a nice place to start. Now on the other end of the spectrum, Vanessa Kirby. Oh my God, she was great, and I'm not as familiar with her, certainly as Joaquin Phoenix, but I think she did a really great job. And as a matter of fact, and maybe this is because just like a month ago, I watched the Priscilla movie, which was, the Elvis and Priscilla story from her side of things. I actually kind of want to see the Josephine movie now. It might be a nice companion piece because I feel like her character was by far the most complex, and the most interesting. And for a movie, called Napoleon and focusing more on him, I don't know that that's necessarily the best thing. So look, this is one, if you're going to see it, I would recommend checking it out in the theater for those big sweeping battle scenes, and just the look of this movie, the costumes, all of that stuff, I think is going to play better on your big screen. But on the whole, this movie is not one of the hits or misses from Ridley Scott. It definitely falls squarely in the middle. For a lot of the good technical aspects, I will give it slightly higher than an average grade. I will leave Napoleon with a B minus. And you can check this out, like I said, in theaters now, but it will be, I'm sure, coming up pretty soon on Apple TV. All right, thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.